a lot of 18, 19-year-old kids can't do that. And they just keep trudging along, and they keep, not doing well in school. And it really does cause some major issues with their application. Well, good morning, Kara. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Where are you calling us from?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, near New York City?
No, the Philly side.
Oh, Philly side. I love Philly. So how far is Philly from you?
It's like a 5-minute drive. It's really close.
Oh, wow. So you're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That area is really cool to me. I've been to Philly many times and have always enjoyed it. I've been over to Atlantic City a couple times.
Okay.
And so probably drove right by you and didn't even know it.
Yeah, it's a cool area. I like living here.
Well, good. And you've lived there for a long time?
My whole life.
Oh, there you go. So you know it pretty well, I guess.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Good. Well, we're going to take a look at everything about you, and hopefully we'll be able to make some judgments about kind of where you stand and what needs to happen in the near and far future. And so we'll kind of talk through everything, and in the next 30 minutes or so, I'll try to give you my honest appraisal of where things stand. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Excited.
Good. So let's look at Mapped and look at your account. And so we'll first start off with the dashboard as we see here. And our first thing that we typically look at is your GPA and the GPA graph. And what we see here is a cumulative GPA of 3.61 and a science GPA of the same thing, 3.61, which is a little unusual that they're exactly the same, but that's great. And what I see here is nice trend line. I mean, you've always been, looks like a good, strong student, with one exception of a dip early on. But a really nice trend line that suggests that over the long haul, you're a pretty good student. Would you agree with that appraisal?
Yeah, I'd say I work hard at it. Yeah.
Good. Now, what's your major?
I was biology.
Biology.
Concentration in zoology.
Okay. Awesome.
I lowered it there for you just because I had that dip was, I guess, 10 or more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was something that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I know it was a long time ago. I still think it might negatively impact. I mean, it has impacted my GPA negatively, especially my cumulative, not my science, but I don't know how that reflects in admission because it was so long ago.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was so long ago, it won't have any notable impact at all. Clearly it was a one-time event. Looks like spring semester of 06 or 07, where you kind of you can address it in your application if you want to. The fact that it was more than 10 years ago, I don't think it's absolutely essential that you do that.
Okay.
If for example, if an interviewer recognized that and kind of wanted to ask about that, they could do that.
Okay.
But I don't. But now, if it was 3 years ago, then I would say, then I would address it. But the fact that it was a long time ago, I would say no.
Okay. That's good to know. All right.
Yeah. Now you're, I guess, what I would term a non-traditional student.
Yeah.
You graduated, I guess, maybe a couple of years ago from college. Is that right?
2019, I graduated.
Okay. And then what have you been doing since graduation?
I had an internship at a hospital for a month. That was my first deep dive into extracurriculars. And then I worked as a medical assistant up until COVID. And then I was a scribe for a few months. And now I'm working as a medical assistant with a remote monitoring thing for heart failure patients.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, and we'll talk more about the activities and stuff later, but good. So I think that the picture here academically at least, is you're a strong student. You have been a strong student over the course of many semesters. If we were to look at a GPA without, let's say, that dip semester, it would be stronger. So, for example, if a school was looking at the last 60 hours of your academic record, they would see a much different GPA, probably more like 3.8 or 9 or something like that than a 3.6. 3.6 is a great GPA. So I wouldn't, I don't think you should be concerned about the academic work and stuff like that.
Okay.
You've clearly, it looks like you kind of went to college early on, didn't do so well, decided, I need to take a break, and went and did something else for looks like 8 or 9 years, and then went back to college.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. So, the good news is back then you recognized and you were self-aware enough to say, look, I need to grow up a little bit. I need to mature some. And so I'm going to take a break from this and then go back later. And so good. So good for you. Good for you for being aware of yourself enough to make those decisions. A lot of 18, 19-year-old kids can't do that. And they just keep trudging along, and they keep, not doing well in school. And it really does cause some major issues with their application. But I think you clearly have done it the right way. You're going to be entering into the application pool with a much greater level of maturity and with a much greater degree of certainty, kind of who you are, at least academically, but also kind of what you want.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's scroll down on your Mapped account. We'll go all the way to the bottom and look at the MCAT stuff. So no MCAT stuff yet.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about MCAT and where are things now? What's your plan?
Well, I was going to take it last spring, and then I was going to take it this spring. I'm not sure because I was hesitant about my because it's been a few years since I took my prereqs that I didn't know if I should even worry about applying this semester, because I didn't know if they were going to be expired, like what the rule is with COVID and everything, how that affects old prereqs and this like gap that we're taking because of COVID.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of prereqs, you're not going to have a problem with that. They don't expire.
Okay.
You're going to be fine. The biggest thing is it's probably been, 4 or 5 years since you've taken Bio 1 and Chem 1 and, stuff like that. So the biggest issue really is MCAT preparation, and you're going to have to sort of restudy a lot of that stuff because you've forgotten, honestly, you've forgotten a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Physics, and usually it's the ones that you took really early on, Gen Chem, early on Bio, Bio 1 and 2, stuff like that, and then physics, the physics part. And so what I would say is, don't be concerned about the prereqs in terms of them expiring or not being applicable or whatever. You're fine on that. The only way it's relevant really in the process is you having to sort of retrack your steps through some of that stuff in terms of preparation for the MCAT.
Okay.
So I would say, in a good prep course, or study materials or whatever is going to do that. Is going to sort of help you kind of return to that kind of stuff and with a focus on what's really important, what you really need to know for the MCAT in terms of the basics. So I would say, have you investigated, some of the test prep companies or whatever and looked at that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I actually, I am part of Blueprint.
Blueprint. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So
cool.
I am a part of that. So I have that as resource. I just wasn't I didn't know that prereqs didn't expire. I don't come from a school with a big pre-med thing. So I didn't know that.
Yeah. No worries. No worries at all. And so what I would say is, you're a little bit behind the curve time-wise for the MCAT. If you wanted to take the MCAT this year and apply this year, then I would say you would need to hop on to, the study routine pretty quickly and establish a plan, a study plan that would get you where you want to go in terms of studying for and taking the MCAT. I don't think you would want to take it before probably sometime in June, maybe even pushing it out to July or August. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to delay the application. You can go ahead and fill out the application, everything whenever you want to, but it's going to delay you having a complete application for the schools until they receive that MCAT score. So if you took it, let's say end of June, they're not going to get that until end of July. If you didn't take the MCAT until August, they're not going to get that score until sometime in September. So it's going to put you kind of behind the curve time-wise. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a great thing. Right. It in my view, it kind of we always, as do the schools, recommend early application. Early being May, June-ish, sometime early July, to have a complete application. But I think that as we talk, we can kind of think about that and examine that and think through a timeline that would seemingly be the best timeline for you. The last thing that you want to do is rush something and then put yourself in a compromised position and not be putting your greatest effort and your greatest foot forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can kind of talk a little bit about that toward the end and kind of see. Now let's look at back at Mapped. I want to look at the graph. If you'll scroll up, the activities graph right there. Good. So we see, and we'll kind of look at these in depth in a sec, but we see leadership, employment, I guess, in college, as well as some community service, and then looks like paid employment, the sort of light blue bars as the medically related stuff. So we'll look at that. Is that accurate? Is that am I correct in that?
Yeah.
The light blue bars are
right. The third one down. Yeah.
Right. So we see 2017 some, and then 2020, 21 looks like you're, as you kind of already discussed, doing more stuff. So let's go over to the left tab of activities, click on that, and then we'll look more specifically at some of this stuff. So I guess that first one is what you described to us earlier a little bit. That you're doing now, the heart failure and hypertension remote monitoring program. Tell us a little bit more about that.
That's a pilot program that it's just a small unit of us, and we recruit patients from the physicians' clinics, and we'll monitor them on a daily basis, checking for their any weight gain or abnormal blood pressure, oxygen levels, and we'll contact them on a daily basis to make sure. So you kind of establish this rapport with each patient.
Yeah. Okay. And it's like Zoom or telephone or what?
We call them.
Okay. On the telephone, you mean?
Yeah, on the telephone. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you get a lot of patient contact, at least phone wise.
Right.
Now they have electronic monitoring on them that monitors all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So they have that at home, and we get it transmitted to our office. Home office.
Right. Yeah, good. So 480 hours of that, and this is something that's ongoing, correct?
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, good. And this is full-time or part-time?
Full-time.
Full-time. Okay, good. And tell me a little bit about how you like this patient contact type stuff. I mean, you're doing it now in a remote fashion, but you've done it also through work as an MA or work as a scribe. How do you like that kind of stuff? Is that really motivating to you?
Yeah, I love it. I had a lot of fun as a medical assistant working directly with patients. That was,
Mhm.
I found it thrilling rooming patients and talking to them and getting to know their treatment plans and seeing their progress. That was really exciting for me.
Yeah.
The job I had in between these two, where I didn't have much patient contact, I kind of, it was all right, but it didn't have the same
Right.
thrill and excitement.
And that was the scribe position.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Now,
interesting in its own regard, but it's not the same.
now that was in person or that was remote
It
also?
was both, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay. But your experience as a medical scribe, it sounds like it was simply just kind of being there, listening, typing in whatever they
Right.
said.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of patient contact at all.
Yeah. But you were in the in-person part, you were in the room, but you just didn't interact at all with the patients.
Well, we were in the room virtually, so we were never, because of COVID, we weren't allowed on the room. So it was nothing.
Okay. Good. Learned a lot of learned a lot of language.
And a lot of coding, yeah.
Yeah, right. I understand that. Good. Okay, back to the activities on Mapped. Let's look at so the clinical informatics specialist. That's the scribe. Okay,
Yeah.
Good. All right. So 10,000 hours of leadership, general manager at a paintball place. Now, I want to know more about this because I love paintball.
Oh, that's good. It's actually a family business that we have, and so my father had a stroke, and so he needed someone to take over his business or his part of the business. So that's what I did. I had quit my job as a line cook and was doing this for him. And it was just like recruiting people and setting up their parties, and it was fun. It wasn't anything that I wanted to do career-wise, but it was
right.
I had a fun time doing it.
Right. But you learned a lot about people probably.
Yes, and how to deal with difficult issues. I think I
Yeah.
never really knew how to do that before, and that was a big learning.
And probably how to lead people in terms of other workers at the place, right? Stuff like that, teamwork.
Yeah, and he didn't have a lot of marketing things, so I kind of took on that role, and so I learned a lot about how ways to increase business and to get in touch with your customers.
Yeah. Now the more important question is, were you pretty proficient at paintball itself?
No. I like it, but it's not. Yeah, I played. I have brothers, and they play, and every time I play with them, I'd get shot in the head, and that it's just, not something I do that often.
Right. Well, I've experienced paintball, a paintball hit from about 2 feet away, which is understand way too close.
Yeah.
And it does not feel good.
No, and you probably got a welt too, right?
Yeah, I did get a welt. Yeah, absolutely, I did. And but I think when the adrenaline sets in, it's hard to remember those kinds of the rules and I don't get too close. The adrenaline just pushes you forward, and you're just like boom, 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 boom.
Exactly. Yeah, we're constantly getting people. We have refs on the field. They're constantly calling people. They're way too close, but you get into it, and it's just
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say in early on when I asked you about this, you said, "Oh, I was just it was just our family business and everything." Don't discount the value of the lessons you learned working there.
Okay.
The leadership lessons, as we just discussed, the teamwork lessons, the dealing with difficult issues and difficult people lessons that you learn. These are all very valuable lessons that will be applicable in medicine. You've learned how to deal with people in a way that a lot of applicants won't have learned because they haven't done that level of leadership things. So don't discount that. And I think one of the things that you'll want to do in your application is talk about that experience insofar as what you learned, what you're bringing out of that, what you what was meaningful about those things and valuable to you, and how you see those being applicable in the field of medicine. In for example, being a leader of the team, being a dealing with difficult situations or difficult people or whatever. So, don't sort of, as I said, don't discount that, but, see the value of that, and really, be confident that that is not lost, and that you're a better person because of having, done that.
I think that's good advice, because I just assume automatically, because it's a family business, that it doesn't count, it's.
No, everything counts. And I think a lot of it is where you make the reason that it counts obvious to the medical schools in your application. You have to say, this is what I got out of this. This is why this is valuable to me. And so you have an agenda. When you put that down in your application, you have an agenda that says, my agenda in putting this in the application is because I want you to know, as the reader of my application, this is why I'm a different and better person, because I did that.
Okay.
So you're creating that meaning for the reader as you talk about those things, whether it's in the activity descriptions in the application, or in your personal statement, or other secondary essays, or whatever. You're creating for the reader that meaning. And so, you will set the tone for those things as you do that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so that's really important. Yeah. So let's look again at MAPT and see on the activities what we are looking at. So you talked about the medical assistant that you did, another healthy amount of hours there. Do you anticipate maybe sometime going back into in-person medical assisting, or do you really enjoy what you're doing now?
I enjoyed in person more, but I like the work that we're doing, so I don't see myself leaving where I'm at.
Yeah. So you're having a big impact, and that
that's valuable to me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely valuable. Absolutely. Good. So it looks like we also have talk a little bit about the PSPCA behavior intern. Quite a healthy amount of hours in that as well, 800 hours.
Yeah, I initially went back to school to do zoology, so I wanted to do animal behavior, and I was testing it out with this internship, and it involved mostly dealing with animals that were coming in from intake situations where they were mistreated, abused, and so I was initially tasked with taking care of cats that were too difficult to adopt out, and I kind of created this program to help rehabilitate them and see if they can come out of their shell. So I loved it.
Oh, good. Now, were you sort of thinking veterinary medicine at some point, or?
No, I just wanted to do field research.
Okay.
So I was kind of getting the behavior side of things.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, for just a couple of seconds, about where the seed is for you in terms of medicine. Where, if you were thinking that initially, where did this impulse toward human medicine come from?
It was a combination of a human anatomy course that I took that involved a cadaver, and I just took that for fun. I just thought it'd be fun, and I loved it, and I excelled in it. And I thought, oh well, maybe I could do this. And then I had a study abroad program that I had already planned for field research, and I thought, well, I'll use this as a final test to see if I want to do one or the other. And I did it, and I loved it, but I realized it wasn't for me, and so I just started pursuing human medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. So, and that's another good lesson, is that you went on that internship program. It was a summer program, or
it was a semester.
A semester program. And so you went on that. It was valuable for you. You enjoyed it. You probably learned a lot in that experience. But the value of it was that it redirected you.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So that's awesome. We have some research here, and that's what you were talking about. 720 hours in Tanzania. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy your travel there?
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, I loved it so much. It's like it becomes a second home. It's just really
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. Okay, if we'll scroll on down. So we have a student in residence, community service volunteer medical. Talk a little bit about that.
That was a senior home up near my school that was looking for students to live in the senior home and in return interact with the community members. And so I did that for my senior year, and I lived in the senior home amongst the residents and would host activities daily or weekly and get to know them. It was a way to bridge the gap between younger and older generations.
Yeah. And did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it was right up my alley. I love geriatrics, so I loved it. It was great.
So you like geriatrics quite a bit?
Yeah, I like it a lot. That's one of the things that I want to focus on. So
now, a lot of the patients that you're dealing with now remotely are probably elderly or older.
Yeah, the majority are. We have some younger, but it's mostly 50s and up. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. 50s, that's pretty young.
Well, I know.
I'm kidding. So then we have, looks like you were a farm tech of some sort.
Yeah, at a lab.
Okay. Yeah. 1,400 hours there. And that was in college, I guess.
Yes, that was during college. It was just when I was dabbling in the animal stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to your, let's look at, if you'll look at the tab on the left down at med schools, do you have some schools in there that you're kind of identifying as ones that you're interested in? Yeah, looks like.
I mean, without my MCAT, I know that it's hard to really accurately pinpoint. I know I'd like to stay in the Northeast, save for a few schools that I like their research, I guess, programs, but
yeah, sure.
I just know it's easier to stay local.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, good thing is there's a lot of schools available in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Philly, New Jersey has quite a few schools. New York, obviously, if you want to, go as far as upstate New York, there's, depends on how far that circle you want to use in terms of, how far away you want to go. But, even if you drew 200 or 300 miles radius, you got a lot of schools in that radius. Now you're thinking MD only or DO also? Or?
No, I'm open to DO. I like the, their approach, I think, is interesting.
Right.
I have nothing against either or.
Just
tends to lean towards MD.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Rowan. That's New Jersey itself, and so quite a few there. Yeah, so you've got quite a few identified, and that's wonderful. Good work so far on that. And I agree with you. I think without knowing the MCAT score, it's a little bit difficult. Although I believe, as does Dr. Gray, pretty strongly that you don't select the schools that you're applying to based solely on the numbers. You connect with the schools. How do I connect with these schools in terms of their mission, in terms of the values that they present, stuff like that. Yeah. And that you really focus on those. And in other things like geography or, stuff that's important to you. If it's important to you to be, near family, for example, or if it's important to you to be in an area of the country that you're familiar with and that you feel comfortable in, and stuff like that. So it sounds like you're going about it the right way. Okay, so let's go back to your dashboard, and we'll kind of bring this all to a head. And I guess my feeling is, Kara, that the MCAT, the issue of the MCAT is the big sort of elephant in the room. And the fact that you really haven't started to any level studying for the MCAT yet, which I'm sort of presuming that, but that's correct.
Yeah,
right?
just scratching the surface. Yeah.
Okay. So we're in really the end, for all intents and purposes, we're at the beginning of April. You've got April, May. If you were going to try to take it in June, end of June, that would give you 3 months. Into July, that would give you 4 months. That's doable. I think you would have to get a pretty significant study routine going. I think that your activities and stuff suggest that you have a fairly good degree of contact with healthcare, with patients, clinical activities, both in college and now. I think clearly the activities that you went through at the geriatric center or nursing home or whatever it was, that's definitely clinical activities. You were in a healthcare setting. You were dealing with the patients, probably a lot more than a lot of students would deal with them because you were living there.
Right.
And so you saw them every day and you were, dealing with them constantly probably. And so I think, so I would say two things. One is I would give you, I would say you could apply this year. It would put you on, later in the application cycle, depending on when you set the MCAT date and how comfortable you felt about that. So optimally, I would say waiting a year would give you a lot more time to study for the MCAT and a lot more time to accumulate more hours with your current work and maybe do some additional physician shadowing as COVID, kind of relieves that and gets that ability more out there. And so, I would say you could apply this year. It would be tight. It might not, depending on kind of where you were applying and when actually you took the MCAT and stuff. Definitely next year, I think you'd be in a much better position. So I would say if you're not in much of a hurry, which I super encourage applicants to try not to be in a hurry. Right. And to try to be thoughtful and very planned out in terms of their approach to things. I would say, the best of all worlds is you set your goal at applying in 22 for the 23 entering class, and spend this year doing those two things, establishing a good, strong study routine for the MCAT, where you basically have a year to get ready for it. Right. And then you also have the ability to hopefully get some more, the additional clinical hours under your belt, as well as the, maybe doing some more shadowing as that became available. So how do you feel about that?
I think that's the reason I was really just anxious about my prereqs expiring, and that's what's kind of was holding me back. So knowing that, I don't mind waiting a year. I'm not in a rush. I'm already over here. So
good. No, I mean, I think that's the best attitude. I love to hear that, especially sometimes I see non-traditional students who they're really in a hurry. They finally decided what they want to do. They finally kind of got themselves settled into into this, and they want to get on with it. And it's so counterintuitive for them often to think about waiting a year or delaying a year. And so I'm very pleased to hear you say that, that you're not in a big hurry and that I'd rather you be very intentional in your planning and give yourself the time and really have a great application when you apply, then try to rush things, maybe not do as well on the MCAT because you tried to rush things.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would say definitely next year, I'd say you got a green light. This year, I'd give you a yellow light. Okay. I think it's a little cautious. I'd be a little cautious about that. But next year, I would say absolutely.
Okay, cool. That sounds good.
Yeah. Do you have any questions that I haven't that we haven't talked about or I haven't answered for you?
No, I don't think. I mean, is having a stark change in your career trajectory, or like I went from animals to humans. Is that something
Right.
that really needs to be elaborated on to prove that
Well, no, I would say in your personal statement, you're going to want to cover that. You're going to want to say, I was a sciencey person always. I kind of anticipated, being in animal research and whatever.
Right.
But X, Y, and Z happened and it led me down this other road and I really connected with it. And so you just want to lay out for the admissions committee members, how this happened and kind of what things occurred along the road that led you to really seek out to go into human medicine. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that was it. That was my only
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah. Good. Well,
Okay.
Kara, it's been great meeting
Yeah.
you, and
Thank you.
good luck to you in the future. And I hope everything goes well for you. And enjoy the time that you have over the course of this year in waiting. You never know what's going to happen over the course of a year.
True.
That if you had applied this year, something cool is going to happen this year. That's really going to make a really cool difference in your life or your approach or whatever. So you never know. So
That's true. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on Am I Ready?
All right. Thank you.